In the survey, when asked about the influence of the EU Mortgage Credit Directive, most lenders and intermediaries expect the directive to have a neutral effect on the UK mortgage market. A quarter of lenders believe it will have a negative effect, as do a third of intermediaries. It has to be implemented. Is there any benefit, and will a Brexit vote change things? If I could ask you first, Robert.
Well, I think the directive itself does very little actually to improve either the lot of the consumer or brokers or lenders, in fact, in the whole process. We're in the middle of just having gone live in the last few days, and I think we're struggling to get our heads around the new documentation in terms of IRESS, trying to work out whether a loan is consumer buy-to-let or normal buy-to-let. The new APRC calculations, what that means, nothing for consumers but just more complexity. So the whole range of things in there that people just got their head around and feel differently about. In terms of the scope and reach across the market, I think it just clouds the issues temporarily until people get their heads around the new documentation and the consideration periods have to be brought into the structure. Doesn't make any difference at all, I think, to the way lenders want to lend or the way that documentation is actually submitted to a lender. So I don't see any fundamental change going forward.
Thank you. Peter?
Yes, I'd echo that. I mean, I think I've been surprised the extent to which, when you think back, we kind of kept doing surveys and having discussions about MCD impact. And over time, there was less and less frenzy about it and less concern, almost to the point where, why are you putting it on the agenda any longer? Now we're in the practical reality period where people are working through the processes and seeing the realities of the definitions and so forth. There's bound to be a period of change and frustration because of that, but I don't see it as fundamental. There is a slight irony, of course, around consumer buy-to-let. Consumer buy-to-let is a silly definition anyway, by any terms. That deluded everybody to think that because the government had, if you like, settled on a small element of the buy-to-let market and was regulating that was the end of it. Of course, since then, government has turned the scope fully on the buy-to-let market, and in that sense, in a way, MCD almost encouraged people to keep their eyes off that ball when actually they needed to be on it. So I think it's a slight sort of twist the way it's come out. In terms of Brexit, I think it's impossible to call Brexit. It's a known unknown. And I just don't think any of us can know enough about how the bank may have to intervene to deal with issues around interest rates, exchange rates. The scale and scope of the interventions around Brexit, if it happened, are so great. I think it's very difficult for trade bodies, even individual lenders, to call what they would do.
And Louisa, any thoughts?
I'd echo everything that's been said. I think the only thing that hasn't necessarily been focused on is that when it comes to the second charge market, I think what this will do is drive out probably better practices, and actually ultimately the customers probably won't have to pay the same fee scales as they have historically. So I think in the seconds market, I think it probably does drive some better practices, but naturally within the first market, I don't think it hasn't added any value whatsoever.
We're already seeing some larger firms talking direct to second charge lenders to go direct rather than through master brokers, which has been the conventional norm in that market. So we're already beginning to see some structural change evolve days in rather than weeks and months.
And in a sense, the closer integration between the first and the seconds market,
It is.
which is probably long overdue, although again it's rather falsely being driven at the moment by the number of people on low interest rate deals who want to stick with their original first charge deal and therefore want a second charge further advance. It's an artificiality produced by the regulatory straitjacket that we're working within.